Hi all, welcome back to Crime with my collie. Every week I sit down with my fur bestie Pickle and we unravel some true crime stories. Before I jump into today's episode, I want to add a quick disclaimer. The following podcast may contain sensitive content which some listeners may find distressing. Listener discretion is advised. It's Valentine's Day this week, and if you are single, seeing all the love paraphernalia, you may be considering jumping onto a dating app. That itch to create a profile, find a last minute date, the thoughts and excitement, the possibility of finding a new partner has crept in, and you're seeing all those shops screaming love is in the air, and it's making you think that you want to jump on that bandwagon. Well, this episode may make you think twice before swiping right, and you may wish to stick to a more solitary date night. It was September 2019, and a single father of two, 38-year-old Liam Smith had created his profile, and he probably picked out his best photos. He was swiping to find a date, but Liam could not have imagined what would happen following a match with 37-year-old Rachel Falstow. They arranged a first date in York shortly after they matched, and I believe the date went well. What a perfect place to have a date as well. Live quite close to York, and it is beautiful. So if you haven't visited York before, I would definitely say put it on your to visit list because it is beautiful. But yes, so they arranged this date in York, and I'm just, imagining that they've met up. Maybe they've gone for dinner, had a few drinks afterwards, and things went really well because they decided to spend the night in a York hotel. The next morning, I guess they woke up still a bit giddy from the night before. It's all new and fresh, isn't it, when you first go on those first dates? Anyway, so they decided to get ready and they went out to lunch together. However, the romance wasn't meant to be, and I don't believe they actually met up again after that day. However, if we remember, shortly after this, we had 2020, and let's be honest, no one was really going out or doing any date in that year. So could have been possible that they just never got that opportunity again. Either way, we skip forward to 2021. Rachel has begun a new relationship with a man named Michael Hillier. He worked as a cannabis dealer, so right away she's onto a winner there. But yeah, seriously, 37, come on, what? Do better. Pick better men. Rachel would later describe Michael as being verbally abusive and unpredictable at times. Again, come on. Who, you know, I know they say we love a bad boy, but cannabis dealer who is unpredictable and verbally abusive probably isn't up there on guys that you want to take home to meet your parents. Somehow they ended up discussing the one night stand that Rachel had had with Liam Smith, and this made Michael pretty unhappy, which again, red flags everywhere. Why you're discussing it anyway, I don't know, but if you were and the man you're with gets pretty angry about it, it's probably something that you should really be wary of. Michael then states that his girlfriend Rachel led him to believe that it wasn't just a one night stand and the sex was non-consensual. So he was led to believe that she'd been raped by Mr. Liam Smith during that Tinder date. However, there is no proof behind it. Nothing else has been. So it's all just alleged at this point, and it remains alleged. Again, they went to lunch the next day, and I think if something like that had happened, you might have just wanted to get out there as soon as you could. But yes, I don't want to, again, take away that if that did happen to her, that is awful. But Just to reiterate, that's the wrong word. It's alleged, okay? So Rachel didn't go to the police to report the incident, and instead the pair decided to seek vigilante justice themselves. Rachel initially denied her involvement and told the courts that she was shocked when Michael told her about the attack that he made on Liam. Rachel then told the court that she was too petrified of Mr. Hillier, a significant drug dealer, to go to the police, so instead lied to officers investigating Mr. Smith's attack. However, the court would learn that Rachel searched the internet for Liam's business. She also searched for his home address, and she searched phrases like, "What is premeditated?" So it's definitely not looking good for Rachel. She admitted making the searches for an electrician in Wigan 6 months before the killing and looking up details of Mr. Smith's firm, but she said it was more innocent searches, which had been driven by curiosity. Now, again, after what you hear what happened to Liam, I really much doubt it. I definitely call bullshit on this. The court was told that she made searches for a Shogun car, which was the same make as the one driven by Mr. Hillier, and later burnt out following the attack on Liam. The court was also told that there were other searches found, including one asking if speed cameras had automatic number plate recognition, several about the home address of Mr. Smith, and one about the response time for police and ambulance, one about home security cameras, and one for the weather forecast in Wigan on the day of the attack. Miss Rachel Falstow denied any of them were to do with the plan to harm Mr. Smith. She also denied sending bogus text messages to Mr. Hillier to provide him with an alibi, so police would believe he was elsewhere when Mr. Smith was attacked. Now, all of this is screaming guilty, isn't it, really? And as we go on this story, we're about to discuss the crime. Once you hear these details, I think you're definitely going to believe that Rachel Falstow definitely was a part of the planning and execution of the crime. Michael Hillier travelled from Sheffield to Wigan on the 2nd of November 2022 and carried out reconnaissance, on Liam's address. Michael lay in wait in a Mitsubishi Shogun, fixed with cloned plates, before heading back to Sheffield, all whilst Liam was going about his daily business. He was unaware that he was obviously being watched by Michael Hillier, which is just so fucking scary. Imagine you're just going along your business. This is a date that you went on 3 years prior as well. And the woman, this is her new boyfriend that's now watching you, and you are just completely unaware of what's going on. I think it's even scarier and so sad of what happens following this. Michael Hillier did not return to Liam's address again until the 24th of November. So this was 3 weeks after he initially went there to, I guess, scope out the area. He would wait outside Liam's home in his Mitsubishi Shogun on his false number plates R22 ORA so all day. He was out there for 10 whole hours just waiting for Liam to return. This was all caught on CCTV camera, dash cam footage and things like that. So they knew that he'd been waiting, watching and planning this deadly attack. On the same day, around 6:30 p.m, Hillier got out of his vehicle wearing a high-vis jacket and a head torch and walked up to Liam's home to lure him out. This would be the horrifying moment Liam Smith was shot outside his home in Wigan. Mr. Hillier shot Liam in the face at point blank range before throwing sulfuric acid and soda crystals all over his body and then leaving the scene. He believed he was carrying out vigilante justice following allegations from his girlfriend that Mr. Smith had raped her years earlier after a Tinder date. In footage shared by Greater Manchester Police, the chilling sound of a gunshot can be heard playing over the darkness of Mr. Smith's home. It's so... Now, in the UK, you do need a license to hold a gun, and they're not, you know, they're not as available as some other countries. The gun that he used in this attack, which was never been recovered from police, they was alleged as a blank firing pistol, which they understand he'd bought from a local gun shop for £140. So he'd bought this gun. It was a blank firing pistol, so it shouldn't have been able to fire and hurt. However, this one had been modified so it could fire a projectile. And he'd purchased this a month before the attack. So again, clearly see that obviously they had premeditated what they were going to do. Far from being raked with guilt following the murder, the pair flew to Jamaica on holiday for 2 weeks. So he's done this horrific crime. He's shot this poor man in the face, left him to die on outside his home, and then picked up his girlfriend and said, okay, let's go on a holiday. I don't even understand how that can go through someone's mind and they can be like, yeah, done that. Okay, right. So let's just book a holiday and go away for 2 weeks. You know, we've dealt with it now. So how did police solve this case? Evidence, and there was lots of it. These were not smart criminals, and we do love a dumb criminal, don't we? So some of the evidence that they'd recovered, there was pictures of Michael Hillier arrogantly holding 2 shotguns above his head, along with other footage of him scoping out Mr. Smith's house in the Mitsubishi Shogun, which police had recovered from a passing bin lorry and as a delivery van. There was other videos showing Hillier wearing a high-vis jacket, marching back and forth from Mr. Smith's house. It was a kind of who did it case to start with, because obviously they didn't know nothing about the poor victim. There was no witnesses, no suspects, no weapon, no motive, and very little evidence to go on the immediate after the immediate attack. However, the CCTV footage definitely unraveled this. There was even some CCTV footage from Liam's home. The bin wagon and the Asda delivery van capturing Mr. Hillier outside the home again showed the length of time that he'd actually been there in wait. Now, how stupid could anyone be to not realise that CCTV footage is everywhere and you will be caught? I actually wonder if they wanted to be caught, maybe thinking they won't get life in prison. Later on, he did mention how he didn't want to, his intention wasn't to kill, but was to more disfigure Liam. So again, maybe he thought, you know, I've assaulted this man, I'm sure I'm going to get caught for it, but it was worth it. And, you know, these are monsters, they're sickos. I just trying to understand why they thought they could, if they thought they could get away with it, or did they think they were going to get a lesser time because he initially thought he'd only just caused bodily harm to Liam and not actually killed him? I guess that's a question we are not really going to get the answer to, but once police knew the movements of the vehicle, the license plate, it wasn't too long after when they found out who this car belonged to. So a couple of weeks into the investigation, they received information from South Yorkshire Police that a vehicle had been stopped 3 weeks before Liam's murder, and it had that number plate on it, R22ORA. It was that really solved this case, or led for them to finding Mr. Hillier and Rachel Falstow. Shortly after they returned from their sunny holiday in Jamaica, Michael Hillier was arrested. Now, Rachel was initially treated as a witness, but became a suspect after she repeatedly lied to police. In a covert recording taken in a prison and played to a jury, Mr. Hillier is heard to say, "We both wanted him to suffer, but his intention was not to kill." He also added, "It was basically to maim him, disable him, and then to pour the acid on his face to disfigure him. So he was scarred for life, like she was scarred for life." No matter what you believe surrounding Rachel's allegations of rape, this was not the action to take for justice. And I know, see, I say that, and I understand the percentage of people that get away with rape in the UK is disgusting. It is so high. So I am not by any means, I'm not trying to take away the seriousness of rape, but there is no evidence that that even happened on that night. And for them to decide to take this kind of justice was just insane. It was ridiculous. And there is other ways that they could have tried to get justice if he did actually do that to her. Okay. And again, like I say, it was all alleged. There is no proof of that happening. After 6 hours and 44 minutes, jurors handed down a unanimous guilty verdict. The family of Liam Smith, who attended every single day of the trial, sobbed uncontrollably and shouted, "Yes, and thank you so much." Michael Hillier, who was handcuffed to a dock officer, looked over at Rachel Falstow, who put her head down as the verdicts were delivered. Now, Michael Hillier, he was told that he would serve a minimum of 33 years behind bars, and Rachel was jailed for 30 years. So a few years short, but I definitely think they were both responsible for what happened to Mr. Smith. A victim impact statement read to the court by Mr. Smith's mother, Julia, said that the brutal murder had turned her family's world upside down. And I just want to quote from her witness statement. "We are completely broken by the senseless and fatal act on such a kind-natured man. He was a devoted father who worked hard to give his sons the best possible future. I cannot return to work because I'm haunted by the initial phone call saying he was missing. Nobody could get in contact with him. Me and his younger son went to find him and found a white tent where he had been lying for 24 hours. I constantly think of things he will miss out on. We will never be able to fill this massive void in our lives." It's so awful. It's just soul destroying to think that this man was just living his life unaware that it would be taken from him. Following the hearing, Detective Chief Inspector Gina Brennan said, "Our investigating team have worked tirelessly over the past 8 months to find answers for Liam's family, and hopefully the decision in court today will give them some form of closure. This case has shown a number of complexities throughout, with Liam's name being tainted in the process and him not being able to be here to defend himself against accusations has been really difficult for the family in the court, the family to hear in court. I would like to thank our partners in the Crown Prosecution Service and Prosecution Council who have helped secure this outcome. Our thoughts, as always, remain with Liam's family through this devastating time. They go on to say that Hillier and Falstow planned the brutal murder of Liam Smith and attempted to cover their tracks at every stage. I truly do hope that Liam's family and friends can find some comfort in knowing his killers have been brought to justice. Although, again, it's never going to give them their son back, their father back, the friend, the loved one that they're going to miss. And it's just awful to think that this happened following a very brief date encounter with someone through a dating app. One night, one day, 3 years earlier, could have had this kind of impact on this family. So do please be safe out there, guys. I try my best to include all factual information from the sources I researched. Let me know your thoughts on this story. This was just such an awful one. They're all awful, to be fair, but if you would like to recommend a story for me and Pickle, please add it in the comments, or you can message us on Instagram at Crime with My Collie, where you can also find episode notes, resources, and photos from the case. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Please keep yourself safe, trust your gut feelings, take care, guys, and goodbye from us.